Welcome to Midweek Talks, where we help you follow Jesus in the midst of cultural and personal challenges and issues. I'm your host today, Mark Ivy, and we are delighted that you're here. Please check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and go to YouTube right now and subscribe to our channel. Make sure that you share this, because today we're going to talk about rebuilding cities. And I am delighted today to have our guest with us, Beverly Danner. Beverly, we are honored that you're here today.
Thank you.
Beverly serves on the City Council of the City of Newton, North Carolina. And Beverly, we're just going to talk today and have a conversation about your role with the city, but beyond that, your heart for this city. And kind of what jump-started this conversation was something that we're getting ready to do here this coming Monday, August 31st, and we're calling it 52 Days of Prayer, but it's really the Nehemiah Project. And what's interesting about that is that this man in the Bible, and what I find so amazing about the Bible is that it is relevant to any time frame of history, is that this man requests to a king that he worked for to go back, and he didn't want to build a church, he didn't want to build a business. He said, I want to help rebuild this city. And Nehemiah chapter 6 tells us that in 52 days, now those of you that are watching, I want you to understand this, because you think about the city that you live in right now, whatever city that is, however many people live there, even if you're in a small area. This city had been destroyed over 70 years prior, and it was a mess. And you think about what old buildings look like when they're torn down, and the grass that grows up, the animals that come, things were burned, they had been on fire many years ago. And there were people actually living there, but they had got used to living in the ruins. And oftentimes that happens to us in our own lives, but used to living in the ruins, but even in a city. You know, you drive by that same old building that had a fire 20 years ago. It's still standing. Nobody's done anything with it. It's burned up. People walk by it, drive by it. Nobody pays attention. Somebody that doesn't live there drives into the city and says, ooh, look at that building, they had a fire. I did that recently. I drove by a house that had a fire. So, oh, that place had a fire. Now listen, people live in that neighborhood had seen that when it happened and drive by it every day. They didn't pay attention to it now.
Yes.
And Nehemiah, what should have taken him years to accomplish, in just 52 days, that entire wall of Jerusalem is built. And so, Beverly, when I think about rebuilding cities, I believe that this can be done far quicker than we think it can.
Amen.
So just tell us a little bit about yourself, Beverly. You mentioned that you had lived in Newton all of your life.
All of my life, 51 years, soon to be 52. I have 4 children, so I was a very busy mother. But when my baby was old enough to start driving, and I didn't have to cook supper for him every day because he's, wanted to go hang out with his friends and eat out, I began to pray to God, like, okay, I'm free of children. What am I going to do now? What do you want me to do now? So with living here, I already had a passion for Newton. I'm in the community already. My children played ball, so I'm all over the place, meeting people all the time. And so I said, well, God, it ain't going to take me much just to say hey to somebody, because I love talking. So it just began to get in my heart a burden for the city, where it can be versus where it is. So, I just had a passion to want to, God instilled a passion to want to start helping people in the community.
So when you take a look at the city of Newton, and there's a lot of wonderful people here.
It is wonderful.
And there are skilled and dedicated city leaders here, from the police department, the fire department, the mayor, the city council, and all of the departments that serve. They are really some wonderful people.
Yes.
As you take a look at the city of Newton, what do you see as like top 2 or 3 things that just lay on your heart every day that say, oh, we got to do something about that. Oh, I wish I could do something about that. What would be some of those things that come to your mind?
Whew, code enforcement.
Code enforcement.
And what I mean, I can go a little in depth on that, is the appearance of the city.
Okay.
I think we could do more, and it just doesn't entail the city having hands in that. Individuals that live in their dwelling places need to help with that.
You know, you bring that up, and so I can hear somebody saying right now, code enforcement. Oh, there's those government people again. And all the literal red flags go up and say, we don't want those people in our building. We don't want them coming around.
Right.
What you're really saying is not about enforcing laws, but really enforcing atmosphere.
Atmosphere, yes.
And people need to understand that, because the atmosphere of a city, what its buildings look like, the trees that are planted, et cetera, affects whether or not businesses want to be there.
That's exactly right.
Or people want to move
That's exactly
into
right.
there. And do you sometimes see there's this disconnect between what the city may want to do and what maybe individuals in that city need to be done?
There's not a clear understanding. There's not a
Okay.
clear one. There is an understanding, but I do feel like it could be made a little bit more clear. When I ran my campaign, I ran and it said bridging the gap.
Okay.
So I feel like as I find these gaps, then I need to
Yeah.
go here and say, okay, city, this is what they're saying. So we need to figure out how we can make it more clear and understanding. And then, of course, you're going to get more positive outcomes from your residents when they begin to
Sure.
see the same vision, or they clear it up some. But I want to make mention that when I raised my 4 children, they didn't know the struggle I was going through, because I made what they seem like everything's great.
Right.
So, but if I would have let them live in the type of struggle that I was going through with working several jobs and trying to mend, the home and keep it family oriented, then I felt like they would have fell in that same type of mindset.
Okay.
You know, but because they didn't know about it and they were able to, and I you're strong, you can go to college. All my children went to college, and they have great jobs. Then that's the way I want the city. You live in this and you don't have to. If you start with where you live at in your dwelling place, clean it up or mow your grass and get it looking nice, manicure it, then the looks of the city, along with the city helping you, everything starts looking different.
Do you feel sometimes that people can fall into a victim type of mentality?
Yes, but they don't have to be.
No, you're right.
They don't have to be. You choosing to be that way, and that's where, when I talk to individuals, I could be on any street and I love to park my car and walk.
Yeah.
And when I just walk, if nobody comes out and talk to me and I'm coming back, then that's fine. I'll pick another street, because somebody's going to say something to me, or they're going to be out in their yard and I speak to them. At that point in time, you listen to what they're saying. And I said, Lord, if it just takes one at a time for me to hear what they're saying, because you don't have to be in the situation you're in, you don't have to be victim.
The phraseology that the city has chosen, brilliant legacy and bright future.
Yes.
And it really takes people like you and others, and you said it's not just the city, it's the people. Individuals within the city have to really care about the city, and if there's a brilliant legacy, and there's a great history here. If anybody has ever studied the history of Newton and Catawba County, and many people might not even know that Newton is the county seat.
Yes.
And the county government is here.
Yes.
And decisions that are being made for the whole region are coming right out of Newton. And, I was reading a book many years ago that talked about how the spiritualities of cities are formed, and that we would think that the spiritual struggles of a city and the individuals in a region are in the largest cities of that place.
No.
They're actually in the county
In
seats.
the county seats.
This has been studied.
Yes, that's right.
And they're actually in the county seats. And so because, and that would be normal because there's so many decisions that come out of a county seat, that the spirituality of a region is centered in that county seat. And this is why this place becomes potentially far more important than just driving through the city of Newton, North Carolina on our way to Charlotte.
Yes.
Do
Yes.
you know what I'm saying?
Exactly, yes.
And so you mentioned code enforcement, but that's more about creating an atmosphere of beauty
Yes.
in a city. That affects wages,
Yes.
affects businesses.
Yes.
It affects how people even feel.
Yes, and value.
And value, yes.
Yes.
What else comes to your
Well,
mind?
I could just see Nehemiah taking on this passion that he had, that
Yeah.
God had instilled in his heart, you know. And there's weeping days, there's crying days,
Yes.
there's heartbreaking days, you know,
Yeah.
because what you see and what you know you have to encounter is heartbreaking. But I know through the help of God that I'm going to be able to do this, and
Yeah.
you know, and he knew that he could do it with the help of God. But I can just only imagine the attitudes that the people had, you know. So he had to have that so in him, instilled
Sure.
in him, that he could portray it and just give it to them, and then they catch on to the vision and began to rebuild with him.
You know, Nehemiah was a male, but maybe you're a female Nehemiah. You ever thought of that? Well, you know, I'm thinking about the emotions that Nehemiah had to face when he went back, because his family, his ancestors had lived there. And at one time, you know, Israel was the leading nation of the world, and then Babylon came in, sucked them up, took them over, and now they're sort of a controlled group of people by a much larger nation. They're living there. Nehemiah goes back. Man, what he saw must have been so totally disappointing to him, overwhelming. But he gathered the people together, and he said, we can do this.
That's right.
And I want those that are watching to understand that whatever city that you're living in, just stand back for a moment and take a look. You know, when Jesus looked over the city of Jerusalem, he looked at it, he wept over it, then he died for it. Sometimes, and when he looked at it, he's not just glancing, he's really taken a deep look. And his eye begins to affect his heart. And he starts to weep, he starts to cry.
Yes.
And I wonder, Beverly, how many people have ever really looked at their city? I mean, not just drive through and say, tear that building down or get that person off the street. You know, I was over in another part of Newton on Highway 10, I was over by Food Lion last night. And there's a guy sitting outside, looked homeless, had a little bag beside him. He's sitting there on a phone, and I noticed he was crying, and says, I went up to him, I said, hey, you need anything? And I said, have you had anything to eat? And he said, no, not really. I said, you want me to get you a pizza? Because Domino's is sitting right there.
Yes.
Right? I said, let me get you a pizza. And got him something to drink. And I wonder, beyond somebody sitting outside of it's ironic, somebody sitting outside of a grocery store where there's all kinds of food.
Right.
Okay,
right.
the imagery of that's pretty significant. He's leaning his back against a store that has everything that anybody could want to eat, but he doesn't have anything. And the imagery of that, when you look at a city, how many individuals don't have anything in a place where there may be resources? Some people don't even know what resources there
That's
are.
right. And, you know, Pastor, you would say that. I'm in a position where I know the resources.
Yes.
So, you know, when someone says to me or I see something, I'm like, okay, let me get you hooked up with this. Let me connect you with this, you know? And when I do that, my heart flutters so, I'm telling you, I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, because I'm in a position to where I know that being on the inside and can help you, oh, I didn't know that I had that. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Especially during this time of the COVID-19 and so many people are laid off and they don't have the money to do this or that and they owe the city for utilities, and I know you're familiar with going through EC Tri-M, but they didn't know anything about it.
Right. There are a number of resources that are available that people don't know about.
Yes.
And, when I look at the city, any city, it doesn't matter if it's New York City or Newton, North Carolina. On a scale, people are basically the same. They want something for their families. They want a level of peace that they may not have. They want resources. They need resources. But they don't always know where to get them.
That's right.
So I'm going to ask you a really bold question here.
Uh-oh.
Okay. I could be totally wrong about this, but I feel sometimes that churches are disconnected from their cities because we're doing our thing within the four walls. And there's a city out there that would need us, but we're like, what city? Oh, yeah, where's your church at? Oh, it's in Hickory, it's in Newton, it's in Conover, it's in Charlotte, it's in Morganton, it's in Statesville. And I know for a fact that within these churches, in their bank accounts, okay, they have resources.
And it's so it's a powerful, bold statement, because if we can only minister when we're in here, among each other, then and it shows. You see doors closed because of this pandemic.
Yeah.
You see nobody doing anything for anybody. And so it bothers me that now you have your opportunity to help the community, and we don't even have it coming out of the churches to do that.
So here's my bold question. I want you to look right at that camera over there, and I want you to talk to church people. And I want you to talk to pastors. Okay?
Yes.
And from the perspective of somebody sitting on the city council, what would you say to us?
Your leaders, you have the biggest platform in the whole city. You're influential. You have influence of people that listen to you. One person in your congregation is connected to a whole family of people at work. So you're the leader, and it begins with the church. It begins with the pastors. You've taught your flock. They know. Now let's go out here and let's start touching lives. But you have the largest platform. They listen to leaders. They listen to the pastors. And so I feel in my heart with a committee, the small as it is, it's 6 to 10 of us that's in a church, that's 10 churches in the East Side community. I've put them in a room together, and we're going to figure out what is it that we need to do. And I've told them they're going to listen to you. You've got the platform to make the difference. You've got the platform. And there's one ministry in the city that even works with the homeless. So you're touching the homeless.
Yes.
Yes. And you've got so many different areas that you can touch. We just need to come together, agree, pray, ask God, seek God for guidance, seek Him on what we need to do. And I believe the whole city will just be under one voice, and we'll all be connected and working together.
Now, somebody's going to say, oh, Beverly, you're just a Pollyanna. That's just a dream that's not possible. Because I know this person, I know that person, I know what those people do. And look at my side of the city. Do you really think, Beverly, that something like that could happen?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. It can happen. It can happen because I believe, first of all, I seek God, okay? And I know God within us. That's why I went also to the leaders and the pastors, because I feel like if it's coming from them and God's got it and got us together and mended us together, that no weapon formed against us shall prosper, not even the doubt. I want people to stop doubting, because God says that we can be blessed here. We can be prosperous here. We don't have to live as a victim. You know, so those people that do speak like that, we have to be ready to say, you know
Sure.
what, it's not like that.
And, Nehemiah had to say that.
Yes.
For those that don't know the story of Nehemiah, he is what's known in that time culture was a cupbearer.
Mm-hmm.
He tasted the food for the king and said, "Oh, that'd be a great job." Well, the problem was that if somebody wanted to kill the king, you're going to die.
Right.
That was like a highly respected, highly trusted job. And when he hears what's going on back in Jerusalem, he goes before the king. And what's interesting, a lot of people don't know this, is that there's a little phrase that says, "And the queen was sitting beside the king." Most people don't know who that queen was. It was Esther.
Yes.
We have a whole story of Esther.
Of Esther, yes.
And the follow-up of that is she's sitting beside the king. And the king says, "What do you need?" And you know that woman is whispering in the ear of that king, "Hey, we need to do something here." Because this was her people.
That's right.
And sometimes we don't recognize how important it is to have relationships with those individuals that we think are just elected people that can't relate to us.
That's right.
What has happened over the last number of years, I think, is that we were told, stay within your churches, don't get involved in business, don't get involved in government, don't get involved in media, don't get involved in entertainment, just hang out where you're at. And when we said, okay, yeah, that's a good idea, we'll just remove ourselves, particularly from government. And what happened was that void that was there was filled with some people who may not be the best people to be in those positions. And you are a follower of Christ.
Yes.
And we're going to be bold about that today.
Yes. Yes.
And here you are. How do you reconcile the fact that you're a follower of Jesus and you're sitting on a city council?
I stay true to God's word. Okay. But, I have asked my council members, are you Christians?
Yeah.
And if they are, then we can speak the same language and we can understand things.
So you would say to somebody thinking about getting involved in local government, yes, do it, right?
I would say yes, but please remember that everyone's equal. Everyone's got to be treated fairly. Everyone.
That's very true. And I recognized something. And can I just go off on a little soapbox here? Because you and I were talking earlier. Sometimes people don't know how to, as Christians, okay, those people that call themselves Christians. Now you know everybody in America is a Christian.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Yeah, right. But those that say they're Christian, sometimes they don't know how to separate their Christianity and talk to people on a normal level and not bring in their politics when they just need to love somebody.
Yeah, that's right.
And I came to the realization that, you know what? We just need to love people. Yeah, but you disagree with me politically. Okay. I'm not going to be able to speak to you about anything if you, first of all, don't understand that I love you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think somebody, maybe by the name of Jesus, had something to say about that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. You have to let love lead.
You have to.
You have to.
Even though there are important things in politics, there are important positions, et cetera, et cetera. And this is what I wanted to say, and this is my little soapbox, okay? People just need to shut up on social media sometimes.
Saying too much.
They just, they think that typing something on a post doesn't apply to what Jesus said, that we're going to give an account for every idle word we speak.
Oh, yes.
It's not just what comes out of my mouth.
Oh, yes, that's true.
It's what comes out of my Facebook post or my Twitter post or my Instagram post or some other kind of social media
Oh, yes.
that somebody might be on. So the role that you serve I believe is significant because it is a role of governmental authority.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look across the city, we talked about the atmosphere of the city. What else it just lays on your heart that says, oh, man, what can we do about that?
Policy making. Does it treat everyone equal and fair across the city?
Okay.
Because as an official, that's what we do. We make the policy, or
Right.
enforce the policy, make sure they're carried out.
Sure.
We're supposed to make sure, is it equal all across the city? Is it fair all across the city? When we go to make a decision, can everyone benefit from it?
Oh.
Or is there just a certain group that can benefit from it? So, I'm the person, I'm known, I have no parts. if everybody, I can bring to the table why a certain group would not benefit from it. And if that be the case, then I'm a nay, I'm not a yay, because
Right.
we need to go back, rehash, do some more searching to where everyone can benefit from it, because love is, it loves everybody. It doesn't just have a particular group of people that it's good for.
Sure.
So that's something that weighs heavy on my heart when it comes down to us making decisions.
Do you think it becomes a matter of actual justice for people? And I don't mean justice in terms of the law, but just being just for everybody. And making sure that somebody's not left out. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but when you come from the perspective of looking out of the eyes of God, you wouldn't want anybody left out.
Yeah, sure.
You wouldn't want anybody left out. I mean, if it's just gas prices going up or whatever, who says everybody can afford that? Let's make, we have to rethink what we're doing, because we're affecting people when we
Sure.
make decisions. So I have a real a passion about that when we go behind closed doors. I'm always that person that wants everybody to think about everybody before we make a decision.
How difficult are those discussions sometimes?
Wow. Well, at first, Pastor, it was a tug of war.
Okay.
But when you see the sincerity and the consistency, and always go to the Word. I always go to the Word. And we can agree to disagree, but it was a struggle at first. But they had to learn that, hey, this lady, she's
serious.
she's gonna talk God to us. And
Yeah.
I mean, I can point you out, God didn't say, this is what the Word says.
Yeah.
And if we can't follow these guidelines, then we shouldn't be following them. And it can work in the political realm. Yes, it can.
Well, it should.
Yes, it can. It can work.
I mean, if those are principles, if God gave us principles, they weren't just for a group of people in a church somewhere.
Yes.
And God is interested in cities.
Yes.
His heart is for the people that are in cities.
Yes. 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 And that's so important for election time. And I've been encouraging for people on my social media page or when I meet them. It's coming up election time. Know
Right.
who you're putting in there, because they're governing your city, and they need to be wise.
Yeah.
And through wisdom, I feel like you got to know the Word.
Yeah. We started voter registration here because you say you did voter registration at a church.
Oh yeah.
Well, a large number of those that call themselves Christians did not even vote in the last presidential election. They didn't bother. And we were at a conference a couple of years ago in California. And the individual speaking, we were at Bethel Church at a conference, and the individual speaking was giving statistics about some laws that had been passed that were really, they were anti-God, significant anti-God laws that passed in California. And the statistics showed that if Christians just would have voted, just gone to vote, then those laws would not have passed.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And that we as Christians have to know the value of our voice in a city.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, and it's not just in the church, the walls of the church.
Yes,
It's when we're
no.
out working in the community. We have commissions that have boards in the city. Christians need to be on those boards so that we can, express our values, what we need to be doing, and, how the city functions is made up of boards. So I've been encouraging people, get on the board if you're a Christian.
Can you say that again?
Which part?
Get on the board. If
Get
you're a
on the
Christian.
board if you're a Christian.
Yeah.
It's just so important. You know, it's just if we could realize how we're affecting other people's lives by what we're doing. You know, and Lord, I fear the Lord enough. I wouldn't want her, you know, hurt someone or someone
Sure.
not be, you know, it's just, so that's the passion part of it. But in my prayer, I ask God to just help me be the solution to my prayer.
You know, I was reading a leadership book recently. It's a secular book. It was actually written by a Navy SEAL, and which I thought was really exciting because he went through all of the guys like this. I went through all the wars in Iraq, and then how they applied leadership principles in their situation, and then he applied those leadership principles to business and leadership and other things. And one of the things he said in there that just really grabbed a hold of me, it says it's not what you teach, it's what you tolerate that determines what you get.
That's right.
And sometimes we can shout all we want to, or from a pastor's perspective, preach all we want to, or from your perspective, try to form policy all that we want to, but we don't get what we say, we get what we tolerate.
That's exactly right. That's right.
And I would like to see people in cities really, first of all, if we believe the scripture that says, if my people, within the hands of the people of God is the changing of a city.
That's exactly right. Yes.
I mean, think of it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and I know somebody,
It's
there
true.
you go again.
No,
You're
it's
talking
true.
that spiritual stuff.
It's true.
Think of it, because the principles of right living, of kindness, of loving people, of justice, of being firm, of leading, of wisdom, of making good decisions, come from God Himself. And if we're going to make a difference in a city, then wouldn't we ask God for some help?
Yes.
As a
Yes.
nation.
As a nation. That's exactly right.
Would we not say, God, we're struggling right now?
And it's a spiritual thing.
You're right.
It's
It
a
really
spiritual
is.
thing. The struggle is in the spirit. It's a spiritual thing. But, you know, we as Christians can take hold of it. I ain't going to go there with this. I'm going to stop.
No, you can't. It's all right.
We can take hold of this spiritually,
Yeah.
you know, and all those other spirits have to obey. They
Yes,
have
they do.
to,
Yes, they do.
you know, and then as they obey, then you help them be healed so that they can see this is where we want to be
Yes.
spiritually.
Yes.
You know, it's like no child left behind. Nobody's left behind.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so, and it's the thing, it's pods all over the city. They're just pods of different spiritualities everywhere.
You're right. That's a good, I've never heard it put like that
Yes,
before.
and they're just everywhere, you know? And we all got to learn to connect, and we'd be so powerful.
You know, that's probably one of the most profound ways I've heard it put before. There are pods of spirituality in every city. Within every city, there are pods of churches.
Yes.
So maybe instead of us from our churches yelling at people outside of the walls, they shouldn't do this or they should do that, maybe we should get outside of the four walls of our church and take what we know to the pods of challenge.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's revival time, if ever.
Oh, yes.
If ever. And I know I had expressed
You get me
to
on the
you,
subject of revival now.
Oh,
We're going to
my
go a
goodness.
long way.
It's revival
a different
time.
road here.
Growing up, I used to have revivals under the white tent, and the straw was on the ground, and we'd come and we'd have fans blowing
Yeah.
to keep us. I said, it's revival time.
I spent many a moment in the sawdust.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because I remember, I'm not so old now, and those times have not gone from my memory. that before they put the cement floor down, that before they put the really nice chairs down, we were in sawdust. Literally, those were
Oh, yeah.
the days of what they called camp meeting.
Camp meeting.
I remember.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? You start a week and the spirit be moving so, you go 2 weeks. I've known one to go months at a time, you know. But God said for me to start over there on the east side. It's going to be all over the city, but
Yeah.
I need to start because he says you can relate. I can get things done where other people can see that things are going to get done. And it has to do with me being black and, you know, and a minority, so that I can talk to them and relate. But I've been talking to the pastors. It's revival time. God's put in my spirit, let's put a white tent up, and it is to sit there. We're not to do anything, because everybody's going to be asking, what's that white tent about? What's that white tent for? We ain't going under it just yet, but it needs to be visually set so that people can see. And then the talk gets around town, gets over to the east side of town, the north side, the south side of town. And then when you begin, you know, to seek God's face about who and how it's going to be done, and then people's going to come from everywhere. And that in itself is going to start delivering people.
Let's talk for those that aren't familiar with East Newton.
Oh, okay.
Okay, they're saying, okay, East Newton, West, North, South Newton. We're talking here about East Newton. Give people a little bit of context of history and where it's located, the history of East Newton and things, and why you feel like that's important to you.
East Newton is on the mill side of town, where there used to be an old mill. There's mill houses on that side of town. People used to walk to work on that side of town to the mill. So that's why it does look different than other parts of the city, because that's exactly where the mill was in that day. So you had, it's called the East Side, and now they call it Zone 4. So it's a zoned off area, and it looks totally different than the rest of the city.
Yes, it does. Yep.
And it has its purpose back in the day why it looked that way. And it is, you know what, it's made to look different because the people on that side of town are different. And so I'm not trying to take away from the character of the place, but just to clean it up some, you know, and get them revived back to, you know, like it used to be, because that used to be the thriving part of town. That's where the school was. Everybody had to come to school on that side of town. Your stores, they walked to the stores. Your farmers had gardens everywhere. So, you know, the people just need to get back to knowing that, hey, you know, we still live here too. You know.
Right. Do you feel like sometimes that part of the city is sort of forgotten?
It is, because you know what? In some people's mind, that's what it is. It's an old mill place. It's an old mill place. You can go anywhere else in the city, you see brick homes.
Right.
You see nice homes. Startown's the newest area. You see nothing but flourish of new homes out there, you know. So really, it's the part of town that looks totally different than the whole city.
I was over in East Newton the other day, and I'm just kind of walking around, looking, praying, and I was trying to get my boundary lines so that I could actually say, okay, I know where I'm at now, because it is zoned off. Actually, I spoke with one of the officers that was here Sunday. I said, okay, how is that? What are the boundary lines there? And of course, the city of Newton has zones. That's how they keep the city safe.
That's right.
To know where you're at and whatever. We have been, we've spent quite a bit of time over at a couple of apartment complexes that are over on the other side of East Newton. But that, I'll term it this way, the downtown of East Newton.
Right. Or that's the back side.
Yes.
You got the front side and the back side.
Yep.
Yes.
And I was over there the other day, and I believe, you talk about revival, and then we go back to the book of Nehemiah. There were two things that were happening at the same time. There was a building revival, and there was a spiritual revival. Think about that. Sometimes we use the term revival only in the context of religious things. But this is what I think God wants to do in every city across America, but we're talking specifically here. Here's what I believe the Lord might want to do in East Newton. It's simultaneous of a building restoration revival of the homes, the streets, the park,
yes.
the area, and at the very same time, a spiritual revival.
Oh, yes.
Because I think the two go hand in hand.
They do. They do.
And as you read through the book of Nehemiah, you start to see that those two things were meshing together.
Oh, yeah.
There's prayer and building, prayer and building. And the thing about it is Nehemiah had opposition. Let me ask you, have you had any kind of opposition to the way that you think?
Coming from community
Coming
or
from
the city?
anywhere.
Oh, Lord, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, Lord, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. You know, when you can't see the vision,
Right.
then,
Sure.
you know, it clouds your mind about the understanding of it. So when someone doesn't sees the opposition, that's how I look at it. When you can't see, you know, you
Right.
can't see the vision. But I don't give them left out. Wherever they're at with their opposition, we talk about it. And I can meet their need right there where they're at.
You know, Nehemiah had lots of
Oh,
opposition.
Lord, yes.
And some of the challenges that Nehemiah had were significant. And it's funny because as you read the book, they had a tool in one hand and a sword in the other.
Oh, yes.
We're like, we're going to defend ourselves, but we're going to keep going. I can't get away from this sense that God is asking people to think about rebuilding their cities. God is asking churches and those that call themselves Christians. And again, I'll make the point, you can call yourself a Christian, but your lifestyle, your actions determine if you really are. And I can't get away from that God wants people to find a place in their city that needs practical and spiritual revival.
Yes.
And see what you can do. The first thing people often think about is, well, we don't have the money. Well,
Well, God owns it all.
He owns it all.
He owns it all. So if you don't have the money and there's a financial struggle, I'm going to quote, then maybe we ought to start with the basics.
Yeah.
And find out, you know what? Are we seeking God for every decision we're making?
Yeah, sure.
When we open council, why don't we open with prayer?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
everything we need to ask God for. Everything needs to be run by Him.
He's the source of everything.
Everything needs to be run by Him. Everything.
You know, I'm going to make a declaration or a statement right now, and some may not understand it, but I want to get it out. I just want to say that I believe and declare that God is going to rebuild the cities of America, and you see what's happening around America right now. I met a family from Minneapolis, 1,500 buildings wiped out in that one riot. It's happening in other places. But I want to be specific now to Newton and make a declaration that God is going to rebuild this city. There's already a project going on downtown, but that God is going to rebuild this city practically and spiritually.
Yes, yes.
And when I met with some of the folks a week or so ago and just greeted them, I said, and I can't get away from it because I always head back this way. I said, we're believing God for a supernatural invasion of the presence of God that descends down in real revival on this city. Because here's what I know. Jesus can fix anything.
Anything.
He can take broken marriages
Yes,
and put them back together.
yes.
He can take those that are addicted and bring them to a place of freedom. He can take those that are depressed
Yes,
and struggling
yes.
and have issues. And sometimes there's the disconnect between the church world and the governmental world, and I don't think God wants us to have a disconnect all the time.
No, got to bridge that gap.
I believe it, as you said, your campaign.
You got to
Said
bridge
you
that
gotta
gap.
bridge
And I'm
that
sure
gap.
Pastor Nehemiah seen that in the people.
Sure.
That same thing.
Yes, he did.
But at the very end, they all had a mind to work.
That's the text. That's what it said. They all had a mind to work. Yes, they
That's right.
did.
And I mean, that's from every conflict, everything you just named, whatever it might have been the issue. At the end, everybody had a mind to work, and they got the job done.
You know, there's always a solution to every
Yes,
issue.
sir. Yes.
There's not one issue that we're going to face personally or one issue that a city is going to face
That's right.
that there isn't a solution for.
That's right.
We absolutely believe that.
That's right. That's right. And we can become the city, well, all over the region, like you said, but speaking of Newton, we can become the city that another city looks at and is going to start asking your city manager, what did you do to
Absolutely.
get that?
Absolutely.
Ask your council, what did you do? What in the world is going on in Newton?
You know, I started another book on leadership, and it's out of the story of Hezekiah. It's 10 steps backwards. The shadow, I don't want to go into the detail about the story, but the sun goes back 10 steps. And every good thing that God has ever done has come out of our weakness.
Wow. Yes. Yes.
And for those that sit in leadership positions, whether they are business leadership, governmental leadership, church leadership, if we will come to God as weak and not strong, the strength of God will make up for our weakness.
Yes.
And a man that wrote 2/3 of the New Testament, he said, God's strength is made complete in my weakness.
In my weakness.
To those of you listening, whatever you're leading a home as a husband or a wife. You're leading a business. You are in a leadership role in a corporation, a healthcare facility, a Walmart, a Food Lion, whatever it is. Your weakness becomes the ability for God's strength to give you what you didn't have before.
Amen.
And we just acknowledge, Beverly, before God, we're weak.
That's right. We're weak.
So, that's not a leadership strategy. It is if you want God to step in.
That's exactly right.
Okay?
Yes.
I want to pray for those of you who are watching right now. And I want to just speak some things over you. I want to say, first of all, in your struggle, in the issues that you have, God is there. You say,
Yes.
I don't see God. I don't feel God. Listen, God really does care. God really does love you. God is hopeful for you. And you have a significant purpose in God. I speak over the leaders of cities, mayors, city managers, councils, commissioners. We thank you for your leadership.
Yes.
We bless you. And we speak the strength of God over you. And we make declarations of growth, prosperity, even in the middle of the struggle that we're in right now with COVID-19. We speak that you will come out of this in great prosperity, in hopefulness, in strength. Not just because we came up with good strategies,
Amen.
but because God stepped in and did what we could not do
Yes.
ourselves. We speak that over you in Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
Beverly, thank you so much for just chatting with us today.
I enjoyed it.
Really, we so appreciate you and your leadership here
Yes.
in the city of Newton.
Keep me in your prayers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We want to thank those of you that have been with us today. Again, make sure that you share this. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, you can watch on Facebook. Thank you for being in Midweek Talks with us today. I'm Mark Ivy. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.